Would it ever cross your mind that the person walking past you with headphones on might actually be deaf? Welcome to another episode of What Do You Know About the Deaf? Today we're going to talk about safety for the deaf and hard of hearing. Let's start with the headphones. What's that all about? Imagine a situation you've likely experienced. You're walking down the street and someone approaches you asking for money for food or alcohol. What do? You give a quick answer and keep walking, right? Now, look at that situation from the perspective of a deaf person. If a stranger approaches from the front, a deaf person can react in time and signal that they cannot hear. However, if someone starts pestering them from behind, outside their field of vision, it can get dangerous. The person trying to get their attention might think they are being intentionally ignored. This can trigger aggression and a desire to use physical force to get a reaction, since speaking isn't working. A sudden shove or touch can be terrifying and is certainly uncomfortable. It's even worse if they run into someone just looking for a fight. Deafness is an invisible disability. Headphones serve as a clear visual signal. Don't talk to me. I won't hear you anyway. This is exactly why some deaf people wear them, for their own safety. Another safety tactic used by some in the deaf community, especially in large cities, is avoiding using sign language near their homes.
Sytuacja ta dotyczy głównie dużych miast.
Why? They don't want potential criminals or burglars to know where they live. They worry because they won't hear an intruder breaking in. It is much harder for them to call for help or shout for neighbors in an emergency. On the other hand, it is incredibly valuable to have trusted neighbors who are aware of your deafness.
Dlaczego?
Most emergency alert systems, fire alarms, evacuation notices, etc., are strictly auditory. Often, before professional services arrive, neighbors alert one another by shouting or banging on doors.
Informują o krytycznej sytuacji, krzycząc lub uderzając w drzwi.
Having a neighbor who will make sure to reach you and help you evacuate can be a lifesaver.
Na przykład pomogą w ewakuacji, dając nam znać, co się dzieje.
Some people wonder, can a deaf person even drive? Is it safe? Should their cars be marked? To answer the first part, yes, deaf people can be drivers. In Poland, since 2018, they can even hold a Category C license to drive heavy trucks.
Samochody ciężarowe.
As for the idea of marking a car so others know the driver is deaf,
Aby inni widzieli, że nic nie słyszy?
it sounds like a good idea in theory, but in practice, it failed. Years ago, orange, crescent-shaped stickers were used on the back of cars so emergency vehicles would know the driver might not react to sirens.
Pojazdy uprzywilejowane wiedziały, że zbliżając się do samochodu z taką naklejką,
The result?
kierowca może nie reagować.
Those cars became prime targets for theft. Criminals realized that if the owner couldn't hear, they wouldn't hear the car alarm or the sound of a window shattering. The idea was quickly abandoned. Furthermore, many deaf people simply don't want a deaf label on their vehicle, which is completely understandable. While statistics show that deaf drivers are generally very cautious and capable, There are situations where a lack of hearing impacts safety. Mechanical failures. Often, the first sign of a car problem is a strange or unusual noise.
To często pierwszym objawem jest właśnie dziwny, nietypowy dźwięk.
A hearing driver can react immediately. A deaf driver might not notice the issue until it becomes a visible or physical problem. The second situation involves emergency vehicles, such as the fire department, police, or ambulance. To reach their destination faster, these vehicles use both lights and sirens simultaneously, and other drivers are required to yield the right of way. At night, the lights are visible from a distance, but during the day, you usually hear a siren before you see the vehicle. Hearing drivers listen for the direction of the sound, dim the radio, or crack a window to locate it. A deaf driver will notice the vehicle later, meaning they will react later, pulling over or stopping a few seconds behind everyone else. If the sun is bright and hitting the mirrors, a driver might not see the flashing lights at all.
Może nie być w stanie zauważyć jego świateł, zwłaszcza w lusterku.
Think about that before you honk, get angry, or scream, "Are you deaf?" at another driver. Honestly, when people ask that in a rage, what reaction are they expecting? A miraculous recovery and a polite response of, "Yes, actually, I am." But let's return to emergency vehicles for a moment. A situation opposite to the one I just described can also happen. Sometimes an emergency vehicle has its lights on, but no siren. In this case, the vehicle does not actually have the right of way. The lights are simply meant to draw extra attention to the vehicle, not to signal that others must yield. A deaf driver cannot hear. So to them, there is no difference between a vehicle with full emergency status, using both lights and sirens, and one that is only using lights as a warning. A deaf driver might try to yield to such a vehicle and, in extreme cases, could put themselves in danger by doing so. One last thing. If you are watching this video, you clearly care about deaf people. Because of that, I have a sincere request. If you are ever in a situation or a location where an auditory-only alarm or emergency announcement is broadcast, please look around to see if everyone is reacting.
Czy wszyscy na nią reagują?
It could be a warning, like telling people to step back from the platform edge, as often happens in the Warsaw Metro. Or it could be an evacuation drill, or even a real emergency where a dangerous area must be evacuated immediately. Who knows? Your awareness and reaction might just save a life. Emergency alerts for the deaf and hard of hearing is a topic all its own. If you'd like to learn more, please contact us at the Deaf's World Foundation. We are happy to help. We also collaborate with other organizations that focus on the broad field of rescue and evacuation for people with various disabilities.